Hello and welcome back. So one of the bigger questions in this game is how to make ISK very quickly. Well, you actually have a lot of ways how to make ISK very quickly, and in my case, I like to do missions and I like to do anomalies, but of course you can choose industry, you can choose also trade, and also you can choose a lot of other options. For the missions in this game, you have the basic, you have the advanced, and you have the expert missions. Each one of these missions is for the appropriate ship level, and you should pretty much stick to the ship level for these missions, since the tier 8 and above are definitely going to be very difficult. And of course, uh, in a lot of these cases, in a lot of these instances, if you lose your ship, you are definitely not going to get the ship back, so you have to be careful with the missions. Speaking of the ship, I currently fly the faction battlecruiser. Pretty much, it is this fit currently is a mix between being fast and of course having lots of DPS. I use its main weapons, currently the only ones that are available. I use particle accelerators for the low slots, a medium battery capacitor, and of course a afterburner. For the medium slots, I use dual Mark V Webifers. I use a disruptor, a drone, and of course a MK5 medium Nosferatu. Pretty much, I have the Webifers and I have the Nosferatu mainly for defensive purposes in case a smaller ship gets too close to me, since the weapons on this ship have poor tracking, and if they get too close to the ship, they can easily outmaneuver my weaponry. And if I make them slow, then I have higher chances of actually hitting them. So as for the anomalies, you have several types of these anomalies. You have pretty much the ones that you're going to be doing the most are the large, medium, and small anomalies. Uh, Bases are very interesting, but bases are there. Bases you don't touch bases. Pretty much you don't shoot bases. You let them pretty much get stronger, because bases spawn these other anomalies. They spawn the medium, large, and small ones, and you kill the medium, large, and small ones. And of course, with time, once you kill enough of these, a Inquisitor or a Scout anomaly will eventually spawn. Inquisitor and Scout anomalies are currently my favorite, and they are also the most interesting ones, because they do offer these containers that you can find, of course, after you kill a couple waves of enemies, and they can give you blueprints, ship blueprints, items, very important modules, and of course they can give you building materials that are also very expensive, and you can make lots of money from that. And that is part of the exploration of the game. I think wormholes are also going to be introduced sometime in the future, sometime after release. I think wormholes are also in the plan. I think the developers actually mentioned something about wormholes, about when they did live streams. I kind of forgot, but I think they did mention wormholes. So you can definitely make a lot of money by doing exploration, and I think exploration in EVE is one of the more interesting things to do. I think hacking is also going to be implemented in a way. I am not quite sure when and how, but I think hacking will also be implemented, since that's also a big part of EVE. It will be simplified, I think. How much, I don't know. I think all of that the developers did mention in the live stream a month ago or so. So I will definitely check that out to see what they have said in those live streams. But back to the anomalies now. Currently, since it is a 10-day beta, they gave us a very fast progress rate. We do get free skill points every day, and we do get a 20-time buff on all incoming ISK. Pretty much a heaven for farming, since you can get a billion in like 2 hours if you're pretty much enough persistent on it. And currently, the most paying anomalies that you will do are the medium and of course the large anomalies. Now you have to keep in mind the anomalies in high sec and in early low sec are going to be around 1 to 4. The big jump is when you go into deeper low sec, then you will encounter anomalies that are level 5. And as you go deeper than that, you will encounter anomalies level 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10, and of course when you get to the null sack, pretty much to that space, you will pretty much encounter level 9s and 10s, which is currently the highest tier, and they are also paying the most. You can get lots of ISK, and of course you can get very important modules from those. Now, like I said, I mentioned about, I did say something about the bases. About the bases, you don't shoot them. You can, of course, if you want, like if you absolutely want to shoot them, you can, of course, but it is not recommended to shoot bases because bases help spawning in these high tier anomalies that can give you a lot of valuable stuff. And I would say, in case if you're very deep into nullsec, or if you're very deep into that space, if you encounter a base, if your ship is ready for them, you can go for them, I guess. If of course that space is not occupied, or of course if you're in enemy territory space and if you want to ruin their farming spot, then you take out the base, and then they will have to wait out for the next base to pretty much get stronger. And in my case, I was killing bases a lot when I started because I wasn't aware of the consequences. But again, thankfully, it was far away from my home system, so I don't worry about that much. Uh, they give faction equipment. Don't get me wrong. Bases do give faction equipment, and faction equipment is very expensive, and of course very powerful, since currently Omega and Alpha clones can use both faction equipment. Faction equipment currently is what makes Alphas competitive, and having those early on in the game is definitely a very good idea. So if you really want to go get faction equipment very fast, then you can, I guess, go for bases. But it is more recommended that you can farm the normal anomalies, and that you go for scout and inquisitor anomalies. Then you can get blueprints, and of course, with blueprints you can actually manufacture your desired module, which is a good thing. So you have a lot of options that you can choose from. Now, in EVE Online, you can also pay someone to transport your stuff from Station A to Station B. I think something like that might be in the game. I'll be honest here, I don't know if that will be I don't know if that will be implemented. I have actually no clue if that will be implemented. But it is one of the interesting things about EVE Online. You can pay someone to transport your stuff from point A to point B, and that way you don't have to risk it yourself. Now, besides that, industry is one of the most paying things in the game. Pretty much dominating the market, as they say, is also a very interesting thing. You can mine, of course. You can mine, sell ore, sell pretty much processed minerals. You can make equipment. You can pretty much create modules, ships, anything you pretty much like, and you can sell that for decent price, of course, and people will buy, since ships are going to be a well, ships do explode from time to time, and people would like to replace the dead ships. So people who sell ships, who are actually doing that in the game, definitely will profit a lot. And if you are aiming to get rich very quickly, well, industry is one way to go. Now, of course, speaking of industry, one big part of the game is mining. I'm actually infamous for killing miners in this game, even though I see people do that the same, actually, even now in this beta. Even though I did chill from taking out miners, I actually killed literally 0 ventures since this beta started. Now, that's an achievement for me. So jokes aside, mining is definitely one of the more profitable things in the game, and it's also one of the more relaxing things in the game. People do tell me that mining is very relaxing, and I will agree, it is very relaxing. So if you want to chill out, and if you want to make money while chilling, I guess, you can mine. Definitely people are going to buy ore. Minerals are going to be sold very fast. You need minerals for everything, so pretty much selling ore is guaranteed that you get some ISK very quickly. And of course, it depends from player to player again. In my case, I am starting to enjoy mining, but I still enjoy the sound of guns blazing. I'll be honest, I still enjoy the sound of guns blazing, and that's it. I mean, that's just the way I play the game. And since this game does offer a lot of possibilities where you can do whatever you want. I'll say something that I used to do in the first open beta. I used to do PvP a lot, like way too much. I did way too much PvP in the first open beta, and I actually did actually manage to make it profitable, since everything that every loot that I was getting from the destroyed ships that I did kill, I sold for high prices, and they were selling actually really well. And it is actually really interesting to note that I actually managed to sustain, and actually I had a stable income of ISK by just doing PvP. So even if you are very successful at pirating, you can actually do pirating and still make really nice money. And again, that mostly depends on your targets. It depends on your prey. It really depends on what you catch in the day, and that's definitely a bit more of a risky way, since you're not going to catch a billion loot every day. No, of course, I'm not saying that it's impossible. It is possible. You can theoretically do that, and that would be very interesting to actually achieve. I'll actually try to do that when the game gets released. I want to see how lucky I can get. I'm really curious to see how much luck I can get. Since currently I am waiting for things to get balanced out, since currently the general, like most players are flying these new faction ships, including myself, and shooting those ships is definitely not a good idea, since they will one hit most frigates, they will one hit most destroyers, and they can even melt cruisers and battle cruisers very quickly. So definitely at the moment wait until things get balanced out in the release of the game. So that's currently the ways that I was making money besides industry, since I didn't do industry. Recently I was also doing a bit of trades, and that also turned out to be very good. You can also, in theory, buy some items cheap and sell them expensive, and that way you also can get enough profits. Now it mostly depends on the situation, and it is things like that, things like this, that makes this game very unique, and it is also one of the reasons why people love this game so much. And again, I can confirm all of these things, since I love this game. These 10 days of me playing this beta flew very quickly. And well, let me see the date. It's 13th of July, and 2 more days left for this game. And after that, it is a month wait for the full release. Well then, I'm doing anomalies here in background, and as you can see, the most difficult anomalies are definitely going to be the large ones. Now, you can attempt at clearing those anomalies with a tier 5 cruiser. It is doable. You just need very long range, and of course you need your ship to be built for DPS. A long range DPS or a speed tank long range DPS ship will work for this. But I do recommend that you fly battle cruisers once you hit tier 7 and up anomalies, because besides battle cruisers being stronger, having more DPS, they're actually more tankier, and you will have less problems flying a battle cruiser than, for example, flying a cruiser in these anomalies. Since cruisers are good, they're actually very good ships, and you can do these anomalies with cruisers, but they're going to have inferior DPS. Now, I'm talking about the classic cruisers, not the faction ones. The faction cruisers are definitely going to be a lot more efficient, a lot more powerful than the ordinary ones, and of course, alphas and omegas can get faction cruisers, can get faction ships, so you don't have to worry about omegas dominating you. If you're alpha, of course, you don't have to worry about that, but I would still recommend that you don't fight in a faction ship unless it's a fleet. Using a faction ship solo, unless it's like heavily tanked or it's extremely fast, I think unless you're in for that adrenaline, I wouldn't recommend, but again, you can do it. Back in the Citadel Defense event, I saw a succubus going 5,000 meters per second, surviving developer volleys of missiles and of course volleys of artillery. And yeah, again, a properly built ship, if you are very confident in your faction ship, if you're very confident in your builds, then you can do it. But for the majority of like content, I would recommend that you just fly a ordinary ship. Now, of course, if you're in your home system or if you're like deep into nullsec with your corp or alliance, you can also use your faction ship. It will not be much of a problem. You just need to be very careful at what you're doing with those ships, since they will be very expensive and very rare when the game gets released. Now, for these anomalies, what primary target you should choose? Well, I like to choose my targets according to size. I usually target first the small ships, then I target the medium ones, then the next ones by size, and then the biggest ones. My primaries in this game currently are always the frigates. The frigates here can web you, they can scramble you, they can nuke you, they can do all of these nasty stuff to your ship. And you definitely want to take them out as soon as possible. Especially if you're a sniper, like this ship currently that I'm flying. My range currently is around 60 to 70 kilometers, and the tracking on these turrets is very low. So, for example, if one of these frigates came too close to me, and if they like or start orbit me around, like, let's say 5 kilometers, I have so little chance to hit them that I'm better off at just warping out at that moment. But there's a trick also that you can use. That's as I like to call, a little backup. I did fit this ship with dual Webifiers and of course a Nosferatu and of course a Warp Disruptor. Instead of the Nosferatu, you can also use a neutralizer, energy neutralizer. They actually work better for this purpose, but I guess both will get the job done. So in my case, if a frigate gets under 10 kilometers, or if it gets pretty close to me, I can just dual web it, use the neutralizer or use the Nosferatu, and make its speed be like less than 100 meters per second, and then that's enough for my turrets to track it, and then the frigate will die very quickly. So you still have some form of protection against frigates that are definitely going to get close to you, especially in PvP. In PvP, these frigates have a very high chance of getting close to your. They have a very high chance to get close to your long-range sniper ship, and in my case, and of course in anyone's case, you can counter that by having dual webs and of course having other energy warfare modules that I am currently using here. So definitely there's a variety of builds in the game, and you can choose what works the best for you. Now, each of these anomalies will have different waves. The large anomalies, I think, will have 4 waves, and the last wave in the high tier anomalies will be very interesting, since you are going to fight these haulers that you will see here, or you could already see them. The large anomalies will spawn a lot of them. The medium ones 2 or 3 to 4, and the small ones will not spawn any of them. And of course, the class of the ships that are going to get spawned depends on the tier of the anomaly. The higher the anomaly, the higher the spawn. And I'm pretty sure tier 10 anomalies do drop orcas as the final drop. I have to test that out. If I have time, I'll venture into that space and I will try to find that. I'm really curious to see how they will work. So that's the case about these anomalies. Now, of course, in the high sec ones, in the early low sec ones, you are going to fight tier 1 to 4 anomalies, mostly tier 1 to 4. You will encounter also level 3, and in that case, you will be greeted with a mining frigate instead of a large cruiser, instead of a hauler, or instead of a mining cruiser. And again, the game revolves around high risk, high reward, and you can definitely take that on your advantage. When the game gets, of course, released, people are going to rush to get as much money as quickly as possible, and the fight will be real. It will be very interesting to see how everything will turn out. I'm definitely looking forward for some scout anomalies and for some inquisitor anomalies. I already have my personal spots where I will go. Pretty much not these systems where I'm here at the moment, I have pretty much my own systems that are very much deep into nullsec, and pretty much I think they're getting close to that space. I'm not quite sure, but it is really deep into nullsec, and I like these systems a lot. And a good thing though, usually, at least based on my observations here, uh, in the tier 5, 6, and 7 space, pretty much those tiers of anomalies, you will have scout anomalies level 1, 2, 3 mostly. Level 4 and level 5 might also happen, and they're pretty easy honestly. You can clear them very quickly without much of a problem, and definitely at this very moment, I am definitely going to rush for those anomalies when the game gets released in mid-August. They can give you very nice loot, and well, the earlier you start getting money, the better it will be for you in the long run, since you want definitely to start very quickly on this game, since I can confirm people do play this game very seriously, and I mean, it's Eve after all. I did not expect anything less. I expected this game to be very serious, and I do like very serious games. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I do. Maybe I took it too seriously. I mean, I absolutely enjoyed this beta test. I can't wait for the release. I absolutely can't wait for the release. I think it will be a. I think it will be very good experience, and I can already tell you, the incoming like fleet battles and wars that are going to happen in this game are going to be very interesting. Well then, and for the final anomaly here, I will clear a small anomaly. Now, it depends on which anomalies you want to go for at start. I pretty much have an idea to jump on the large anomalies pretty much very early on. Hopefully, I will manage to make my idea work. I think it will work. So far, the skills will allow me to do that, and of course, I think the majority of the game will allow for that. Of course, I'm pretty much mostly here speaking for myself because I do have already some experience with this game, and I already have an idea how everything will work. So I can pretty much currently test things out, and of course, I can already plan things out in advance. But for pretty much players who start early on, who didn't play the game, I would really recommend to first train out with the low tier anomalies, and then slowly increase your anomaly rank as you play the game, as you get better skills, as you pretty much get more advanced in the game, and as you get better ships. Then you slowly follow the trend of the tier. That pretty much means if your ship is tier 2, play anomalies tier 1, 2, 3. If your ship is tier 3, play anomalies 1 to 4. If your ship is, for example, tier 4, play anomalies 1 to 5, and so on. And when you hit a faction ship or a faction destroyer, then you can pretty much also jump on some higher tier anomalies without much of a problem, since faction destroyers, faction cruisers, faction battle cruisers, and frigates are definitely going to be very lethal in this game, and they're definitely very powerful, and you can use them for majority of content in the game. Since with those ships, the one thing that is definitely going to decide whether you are going to live or whether the ship will explode is pretty much your skills of operating the ship. Of course, your fit. The most important part is also the fit, and of course your personal experience with the ship, and of course with the ship class. Now, I did fly bombers, I did fly cruisers, battle cruisers, frigates. Soon I'll fly a battleship, and I do have experience with those ships quite a lot. And I can safely say for myself, at least, that I am pretty confident at flying these ships at the moment. And I did get like when I first started the game, I'll be honest, like back at the first like open beta, I wasn't quite confident at pretty much touching anything high tier for a while until I got used to the game. Once I get used to the game, I just went and well, I think majority of people already know what I did, what I mostly did on the open beta. So pretty much play the game at your own speed, enjoy the game. Games are there to be enjoyed, of course, and don't rush. Just relax and I guess enjoy the game. This game is a game that is mostly made to be enjoyed. I have high pleasure of just like watching the ship in the hangar, honestly. The music is top notch. You can relax. You can choose your own profession in the game. You can either go like me for piracy. Yeah, I'm pretty much known for that already, making my name as a pirate. Yeah, that's not gonna make me problems when the game gets released. You can choose mining. You can choose industry. You can choose pretty much anything that you want. The game pretty much has to offer. Well then, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed. Again, it's my pleasure to play the game for you, and like and comment and subscribe if you want to support me. And with that being said, I'll see you next time. Fly safe and take care.